Hey guys, what's going on? It's QQ here. Today we're just going to be going over a replay, a really quick replay. This video is going to be about setting yourself up for a win condition and the units that you pick and what those kind of mean. So I made this deck. It was centered around the ferret and going with ferret pokes, especially early on in the game when you're on one base, maybe even having a second Grinsmill with one or two farms. And what I have learned with the ferret just by using it is that it is not typically great on its own. It needs other units to support it, much like how falcons aren't great to be made in the beginning of the game, but are super good when they're added on later on. But that's not what we're talking about. Right now, what we're talking about is giving yourself a win condition before the game even starts. Now, a lot of the games are decided by map generation, and you should be changing up your tactics or your strategy depending on the map. But going into a game, you should definitely have a solid idea of what you're going to need to do to actually beat your opponent. Now, with the ferret, it's super long ranged. It has a delayed attack, so your opponent can dodge that, and it basically loses to anything in a one-on-one fight, just because if your opponent isn't a blind person or falling out of their chair while they're playing, then they're going to have absolute perfect micro, and they're going to be able to dodge the shots of the ferret. So you got to combine the ferret with something like mines or something like a turret. Now, if you pick mines, then I think it's okay to pick pigeons, because then you're going to be more out on the map and not inside your territory. If you pick machine guns, then you're going to be attacking mostly when you take a Grinsmill and you can put down a turret, and your guy or your commander and your units will all already be in your territory, so you're going to be regaining health anyway. So you don't need the pigeons as much as you would if you're taking the mines. And instead of pigeons with the machine gun, you'd be taking toads with a machine gun, because, again, you don't want to die to mass lizard. One of the biggest questions I always ask myself when I pick a deck is, do I die to badger and do I die to mass lizard? Those are the two biggest important things, the two most important things you should probably ask yourself, because it's, one, they're very prevalent, and two, it can feel pretty bad to just lose to something straight up, just like one unit. So the ferret does not let you beat the badger, and that's why I actually run the falcons and the mines. The mines are good because, I mean, it slows literally everything down, and that's really good. So here in this game, my win condition is basically to poke, 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 and I only want to take fights when my opponent is running into mines, like this. Now, as you can see, I do have a lot less army value than my opponent right now, and it does look pretty choppy. But I'm keeping the important units alive. I'm keeping the ferrets alive. They're expensive, but they also allow me to just keep working on my opponent. See, he has to back up. He has to start macroing. I can start poking again. I lay down the mines, get myself into a nice position. So with this deck, my win condition is basically death by 1,000 cuts. I want to take a bunch of trades that I know I'm going to be taking a lot better than my opponent, or at least try to, and it doesn't always work out, as you've seen in this game already. It's quite hard. So basically, when you do pick a deck, you kind of want to give yourself a second out, because if your first strategy doesn't work, then you're going to need a backup. And that's perfectly okay. So that's why I also run the falcons and the owl. So the owl is like for super late game. Like if I say, so I took out his base here, right? But what if I didn't, and I had to go up to a second Grinsmill and start actually macroing up? Then I would need to get into a later game army, and the owl is super fucking good for value, right? Because you're making free units, and you're constantly trying to trade with your opponent, much like what you're trying to do with the ferret, but on a kind of a different scale. And And the mines let you just kind of like be out on the mat without worrying about getting counterattacked or like I never have to have a straight up better army than my opponent because of the mines. They slow down the unit the movement, the unit attack speed, and they just help you live. I mean, the mines and ferrets are so good together. It's a really good synergy. The ferret needs something else to be helping it. But if I can't win this way, then I have to go into a later game and I have to get falcons up and I have to get owls up. And if I don't, then I will lose to someone who is just outplaying me or just has a better unit composition overall and not falling into the mines. So that's the biggest thing that you need to be asking yourself when you're making yourself a deck is how do I make myself win the game? You can't just pick you can literally just pick a random deck of units, but if there's no synergy between those units and if there's no plan, then you're basically just asking for trouble. And the entire point of this deck is to get as much value as possible with the trades and with the mines. Mines will always pay for themselves. Most likely. They kill every single tier 1. And they have no remorse. So anyway, guys, I hope that was a little bit helpful. We're going to do some more games. As the week goes on, I want to do is just go over as many games as possible and maybe go over different kinds of decks. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day, guys.